going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sport to Jake. Hope we're all doing well. So we got my NBA preview today. Very excited. Couple things I want to go through first, very quickly. Congratulations to the Texas Rangers. They slapped the crap out of the Houston Nationals last night. I believe it was 11-3. I was watching it, and then I turned it off once it was 8-2. I was like, right, this game is over. Excuse me, 11-4. It was 11-4. Texas went 11-4. They beat the Houston Nationals in 7 games. That came as a surprise to me. And they advanced to the World Series. It's their first appearance in the World Series since 2011, when they lost. I think 2011 when they lost back-to-back years. I think 10 or 11 or 11 and 12 when they had those Ron Washington-led teams. So, Christian Javier got stuff for Houston. Then they knocked him out, I think, in the first or second inning. And I didn't love Dusty Baker's approach to the bullpen. So he goes to Hunter Brown in the second inning. Okay, he's a guy, he's got good stuff. He throws hard. He can give you some length, and it's what you need. But you only give him, 2 innings, and then down 4-2, or, so you make it 4-2 after the home run by Alex Bregman off Scherzer. And then you go to J.P. France down 2 runs in Game 7 in the 4th. For that game, I would have had Hunter Brown if he gave you 3 or 4 innings. And then from there, go to your big guys, starting in the 6th inning. And hit the 4 innings. If he's cruising, give him another inning or 2. And of course, J.P. France gets rocked for 4 runs in the 4th inning, and that made 8-2. And now at that point, put yourself in a deep hole. Scherzer didn't look great. Gives up 2 runs. He comes out in the 3rd. He's looked rocky since coming back. Obviously, he hasn't pitched in over a month. He's 39 years old. Didn't have a great season. He's not the same pitcher anymore. In Game 3, he got rocky with 5 runs and 4 innings in Game 3, and in Game 7 last night, he came in the 3rd inning. But Jordan Montgomery came in and was phenomenal. He has been phenomenal in this postseason. That Texas lineup is the best lineup in the American League. Dolis Garcia, he is a dog. What an amazing series. 15 RBIs in 1 series. That's a playoff MLB record in 1 series. He, of course, was ALCS MVP. At 280, we've also had 5 home runs. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, just go down the list. Now, that lineup is loaded. And Bruce Bochy is such an amazing manager. Best manager in baseball, in my opinion. Should win American League Manager of the Year. Should be unanimous. Obviously, he came out of retirement. After he retired a few years ago after a long tenure in San Francisco, where he won 3 World Series. Before that, I was in San Diego for a while. And he's done a phenomenal job. Taking a Texas team that's been lifeless for the last few years. Been, disappointment after disappointment. Got them into the playoffs. Had a rough last week of the year, but still was able to get in. Although they lose the division on the last day of the year to Houston, but then come back and beat them in the ALCS, and they have only lost, I think, 3 games all postseason. So they will face the winner of the Philadelphia Phillies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we're gonna have an all wild card final. That's kind of crazy. Game 7 is tonight at 8:07 Eastern Time on TBS. The Phillies are running out Ranger Suarez. Arizona running out Brandon Pfaadt. Game 7 is tonight at Citizens Bank Park. And Philly's going to be rocking tonight. They have some of the best fans in baseball. Philly sports fans are very obnoxious, but those Phillies fans, they know how to pack a stadium, and they know how to get loud. Let me tell you something. All right, so before we get to NBA preview, a couple small things of NBA news. The Bucks extended Giannis onto the Kumpo, 3 years, $186 million. That's an incredible amount of money, $62 million a year. He's got a player option for 27 as well. So, the 20, 24, 24, 25, 5, 26, so he's got a player option, I think, for a 4th. So, they're definitely going for it, Given they just gave Giannis another big deal. Obviously, you make the trade to get Damian Lillard. You're moving Drew Holiday and company to get Damian Lillard. You have Chris Middleton there. Who you re-signed, who up to that, and you re-signed on a brand new long-term deal. Milwaukee's definitely going for it, for sure. But other than that, Milwaukee Bucks assistant coach and former Portland Trailblazers head coach Terry Stotts just stepped down. Apparently last week he got into an argument with head coach Adrian Griffin and led to him stepping down. That's very interesting because, of course, he was in Portland, so he coached him in Portland. He was his head coach in Portland for a while, for 6 years. You know, they bring him as an assistant to Adrian Griffin, you know. And he was the first-time head coach, bringing an experienced head coach in Terry Stotts, who was important for 6 years, had some level of success, was in the playoffs for the most part. Didn't do anything there, but wasn't in the playoffs for the most part. Now he's no longer there, so very interesting. And the Indiana Pacers gave Aaron Nesmith a 3-year extension. And the Atlanta Hawks gave Oniqua and Conquo from our lottery pick a few years ago a 4-year extension worth $662 million. You know, teams doing, you know, extending all these young guys, making sure that they don't get to restricted free agency. All right, on to my NBA preview. I'm going to go conference by conference, predict, you know, where each team is going to finish. I'm going to tell you why. It's the same idea as my NHL preview. Pretty much all my, you know, major league previews are pretty much work the same way. And afterwards, I'm going to predict who I have winning each award. And then I'm going to predict who I have winning the finals. You know, what 2 teams I have in the finals and which team I have coming out on top. Right, let's start in the Eastern Conference. I had the Boston Celtics finishing first in the Eastern Conference. You know, obviously, last year had a lower team. You know, came up short in the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, losing to Miami in 7 games. Went down 3-0 shockingly. Then came all the way back, forced Game 7. Then laid an egg in Game 7. You know, they make the move to bring in Drew Holiday. That's a big move. You know, well, first things first, they got Kristaps Porzingis, who had a really good year last year. His best year, probably of his career. At least his best since his All-Star year with the Knicks. And that was, at this point, 4 or 5 years ago. He averaged 23 and 8 last year. He's a good defender. Obviously, 7'3", 7'4". He can shoot the ball. He can dribble. He's a good defender. He's a great player. Obviously, a great big. Still young. They got you know, they gave him a 2-year extension. You know, they make the trade to send out Marcus Smart and some picks, and then they make the trade for Drew Holiday. And you know, obviously, the Bucks moved him to Portland, and then the Damian Lillard trade, and Portland flipped him to Boston. Boston gives up Malcolm Brogdon, Rob Williams, and 2 firsts. I would have liked to keep Rob in that deal. I think that hurts their depth a little bit. And I think rim protection was a concern. The 2 biggest concerns to me going into this offseason were they needed an upgrade at point guard and rim protection. And they obviously get an upgrade at point guard. You know, they move out Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon, and they bring in Drew Holiday. You know, they're going to give Peyton Pritchard a bigger role. They just give him a 4-year extension. You know, and to help the rim protection, they bring in Kristaps Porzingis, which will help. But they also let go of Rob Williams. So they do upgrade, but they lose a little depth. Of course, you got Jason Tatum as one of the league's best players. Jaylen Brown's a great player. Got his shiny $300 million contract. That's still can't get over Jaylen Brown getting $300+ million. That's crazy. Derek White's a great player. My one issue, I don't think they're as deep as they were last year. You know, you don't have Malcolm Brogdon anymore. You don't have Marcus Smart. You don't have Rob Williams. But I do think Peyton Pritchard will play a role. He's going to have an increased role. They need him to step up. They got a lot of 3-and-D guys on that bench. Sam Hauser, O'Shea Brissett. You know, this young kid, Jordan Walsh. Like, kind of wish he had hair. He looks kind of creepy about his hair. But he is a very good talent. I like them getting him in the second round. Al Horford is still a good player, a good rotational big on the bench. So they're a really, really good team. You know, James was a good coach. I didn't love what he did in the playoffs last year. He got outcoached by Alex Spoelstra in the conference finals. Alex Spoelstra was maybe the league's best coach, but wasn't even remotely close. So, yeah, this is definitely a make or break year for him. To me, Celtics need to get to the finals, or he might lose his job. Maybe if they lose a hard-fought series to the Milwaukee Bucks because of how good that team is and get to them very surely. Like this team needs to get to the final. Like this team is really good. In second, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. I just mentioned they make the big trade for Damian Lillard. They get one of the league's best players, one of the greatest shooters ever, an absolute assassin who goes to a contender. Of course, they have Giannis, who's one of the league's best players. Chris Middleton, when healthy, is really good. You know, they still have, you know, Brook Lopez. Shout out to Brook Lopez for just, you know, evolving his game as the league has evolved. When he came in, he was just defensive rim protector. Then when the league went all right, Big's got to have a shot. He developed a 3-point shot, and he's done a really good job with that. He's a very good player. A little older, but still a great defender. Can still shoot the ball a little bit. I like some guys they have on their bench. They definitely lose some depth with the Dame trade. Losing Drew Holiday obviously is big. But, they got Bobby Portis on that bench. He's a very good player. On the bench, they bring in Campaign. That was a good late addition. He's a good number 2 point guard. You got Malik Beasley, who's pretty good. You have Brooks' brother, Robert Lopez, is not a bad rim protector to have on your bench. You need some of these young guys to step up. Ty Washington, Andre Jackson. He's undrafted free agent, a second-round pick. He played a big role on the UConn national championship team, so he brings some championship experience from the college level. But this Milwaukee team is really good. Obviously, they make the coaching change. They move on from Mike Budenholzer after a shocking first-round exit as the 1 seed to the Miami Heat in 5 games last season. The main thing with them, they gotta stay healthy. Obviously, Chris Middleton battled a lot of injuries last year. Dame and Portland has battled injuries the last couple of years. Giannis missed 2 games in the first round last year. I didn't think was quite the same player after he came back in Game 4. He got hurt in Game 1, didn't play Game 2 or 3. They gotta stay healthy. If this team is healthy, I don't know if anybody can beat them. Only team that can even sniff them is Boston, and then maybe Denver if they reach the finals, and if that's the finals. They gotta stay healthy. But they should be loaded. I got them finishing in second in the Eastern Conference. And third, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a really good team, obviously led by Donovan Mitchell, who's an incredible player, an absolute assassin out there. Darius Garland's a great young point guard. He struggled in the playoffs last year, but he was his first time in the playoffs, so I think that will be a good experience that he will learn from. I love Evan Mobley. He's such a phenomenal talent. Already one of the league's best defenders. His offensive game is coming along really nicely as well. They got Jared Allen. I would have probably moved Jared Allen for a really good wing. But he's still there. He's a very good player, underrated guy, really good rim protector, can score a bit. I think they got some nice depth. Bringing Max Strus, who I think they overpaid, but he's got a lot of playoff experience. He's been in the finals a couple of times. He's a good perimeter defender, shooter. Can be on and off as a shooter, but when he's on, he's a nice 3-point shooter to have on your bench. I like them at George Niang. He's a good 3-point shooter. You have Karis LeVert, who, he hasn't really worked out. A guy who had a lot of talent a couple of years ago. Obviously, I'm very happy that he overcame all the health issues that he did a couple of years ago. But overall, really hasn't worked out. Wasn't very good in the playoffs last year against the Knicks. But I do look for talent on the kid. He's not a bad bench option. They have pretty good depth down low. With Tristan Thompson, who I don't think has much left, but he at least does have a championship ring. He can thank LeBron James for that, but he has one. Dean Wade, Damian Jones. They have Evan's brother Isaiah Mobley. So this team, I think, is deeper than they were last year. This team is really good. I'm not sold on Bickerstaff. He's a good coach. I would have probably moved on, to be honest, after the last season. I thought he got out-coached by Tom Thibodeau severely in that first-round playoff exit in 5 games to the New York Knicks. I picked Knicks to win in 7. But, if you really look deep, Cleveland probably should have won in 6 games. Just on paper. Obviously, on paper, really, you can throw out the window come playoff time sometimes, but, Cavs had home court advantage, too, so they didn't have to play as many games at Madison Square Garden. But this team is really, really good this year. They may still be a piece away from winning a championship, but there's no reason they can't win at least the playoffs here. This team is a very good basketball team. Still very young as well. Carl's another young guy they got. In 4th place in the Eastern Conference, I have the New York Knicks finishing in 4th. Obviously they're led by Jalen Brunson, one of the league's best point guards. He had a phenomenal year last year, breakout year. Another team that's got a lot of young talent. RJ Barrett might be their X factor. Didn't have a great year last year. Now, he really struggled shooting a 3. He was on and off in the playoffs. But very, very talented. At the very least, he's a good scorer. He's very athletic. He developed into a really good defender last year. Julius Randle. Say what you want about Randle. And I know his attitude isn't great. He has not been good in the playoffs, but in the regular season, obviously it's been on and off. For the most part in the regular season, he's been very good. He's been a 24, 25 point, 10 rebound, 5, 6 assist guy. He's a very good player. I like Quentin Grimes a lot. I think he could be a breakout candidate this year. Guy who can really shoot and defend. I like some guys I have on their bench. I love Emmanuel quickly. Really good perimeter defender. Can shoot the basketball. Good handles. They got Dante DiVincenzo they bring in. I think it's a perfect fit. They got the Villanova boys back together with Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart. You might as well trade for Mikal Bridges at this point. And Hart, such a perfect fit. Those two guys fit the Knicks perfectly. Do anything you ask them to. Hart and Stein's a really good big man. I wish Mitch Robinson wasn't still there, but he is. At the very least, he's a good rebounder and can block shots. He can't score. And also the paint he can't defend, but and also Jericho Sims, who is incredibly gifted athletically. So I think, I think Tom Thibodeau's a good coach. I was very critical of him in the first half of the year, but he made some nice adjustments in the second half of the year. Kudos to the Knicks front office for making the Josh Hart trade last year. I like the DiVincenzo move. They could have done a little more. Maybe look to move Mitch. Maybe try and get a better big man. Maybe try to get another knockdown shooter. But this is still a really young team. If they're going to go after a superstar, it's going to be next year. They'll have 4 first-round picks next year. They didn't have one this year because that belonged to the Dallas Mavericks and the Porzingis trade a few years back. Obviously, Joel Embiid might be available. So, they've been linked to him. So we'll see what happens with that. There've been talks next are going to trade, I think 3 of Randall, Fournier, Mitch, and Barrett, and 2 or 3 firsts for him. This is not something that's not gonna happen for at least another year, so I'm not gonna even go too deep into it. Things could change. But I'm very excited for the Knicks. They're finally building something. Need some of these young guys to continue to develop. I'm hoping they learn from this playoff experience. Losing in the second round to the Miami, I was shocked they even won a playoff series. They need RJ to be better. Randall definitely needs to be better. Graham needs to be better. IQ needs to be better. Jalen Brunson's great, but basketball is a team sport. You can't just have one guy. Your brother can drop 30, 40 points every game. 40 points doesn't win you a basketball game. It just doesn't. So, but I'm very excited about the next year. I have them finishing in 4th from the conference. Not a team to contender yet, but still a very good team. In 5th place, I have the Miami Heat. So look, I think they had a rough offseason. Not following through on getting a knockdown shooter. The Dame trade slipped through their fingers. Didn't really pursue Bradley Beal. Well, I thought that could have been a fit there. No, you lose Max Strus, though I wouldn't have paid him the money he got in Cleveland. Losing Gabe Vincent was a big loss to me. He was really good in the playoffs. He was their best point guard down the stretch last year. I thought he got a pretty fair deal with the Lakers. I'm surprised they kind of went a little cheap on him. I love Pat Riley, but I would have tried to retain him. They got, I'll Jimmy Butler is a great player, incredible defender, not great 3-point shooter, but incredible scorer on the 3-point line, great leader. Obviously, he does in the playoffs. Bam Adebayo, I didn't think had a great year last year, but did have a good year. 2 years ago was the second team All-NBA. He's a phenomenal defender. He thinks he's the league's best defender. I think it's a bit of a stretch, but I do think he's one of the 10 best defenders in basketball. That's why he's been second team All-Defense 2 years in a row. I wish he'd be a little more aggressive, when it comes to shooting the 3-ball and taking the ball to the hole and just overall just scoring a little more. So we'll see if he takes a little more initiative on that this year, but he's a really good player. Talent through the roof. I like talent on Tyler Hero. I think he's a little better as a 6th man than a starter, but I do like the talent on the kid. He can score. He can score with the best of them. And you got, I wish they had a little better power forward than Kevin Love. Love, I don't think is a star at this point in his career, but he still can play. Was on and off in the playoff, but Kyle Lowry can still play. You have Duncan, who's a good catch and shooter on the bench. I like how Hawk has a lot. Their first round draft pick. You know, every. And if you look at their team outside of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, and maybe Tyler Hero, it's not that big three isn't like too special. But their team isn't great. But every year, Miami they pick up some random undrafted free agent, some former late second round pick, and somehow turn them into a key rotation piece. They find a way. That's the Heat culture. Whether you're making $40 million and you're a star, you're making the league minimum and you're on the end of the bench, you're working. And that's the Heat culture. They got the top one, one of the two best coaches in basketball and their exposure, either Spo or Greg Popovich. Take your pick. Popovich is obviously better historically. It's either him or Phil Jackson, the greatest head coach in the history of the league. Spoelstra, I think, is top 7, I would say. But right now, it might be Spoelstra, but it's definitely one of the two, They got some young guys. This kid Cole Swider, this undrafted free agent, looked really good in preseason. So could he step up? Could maybe Haywood Highsmith or Nikola Jovic from another year under the belt step up? Nikola Jovic could be an interesting one. I thought in the Summer League last year he looked very good. Obviously he gets famous because he's the same name as Nikola Jokic besides one letter, except Jokic is should have been a 3-time MVP and is the league and is the best player in basketball, and Nikola Jovic is a bench warmer right now, but I do think there's something there. A lot of people aren't as high as him as I am, but I think there's something there. If that could be a guy that steps up. I just feel like I think Miami, their tough offense is gonna kind of hit them in the mouth. I don't expect that much from them. But I don't think they're going to be like, like a playing exit. Like, they still have, Jimmy Butler is one of the 25 best players in basketball at the very least. Bam's a really good player. We see the talent on Hero. They got some other young guys on that bench that I like. They got an amazing they have a Hall of Fame caliber head coach. They'll still be a good basketball team. And they're a team that might just need to get to the postseason. They're a team because of how great Jimmy Butler is in the playoffs and how experienced they are, how experienced Spoelstra is. Of course, having won, 4 championships? No, wait. He won 2 with LeBron and 1 without, so he's won 2 championships, been to the finals countless times. Maybe all we need to do is get to the playoffs. So even if they're only a 5 or 6 and they have a tough first round matchup against like Cleveland or something, if they can get to the postseason, especially as good as Jimmy Butler is, especially in the early rounds, they might be able to, go on a long run as long as they get there. So I have finishing in 5th. In 6th for the East, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't expect much. James Harden, I don't think plays a game for the Sixers this year. I don't. I really don't. And if he does, I don't expect his head will be in another dimension. He's not the same player anymore. Embiid's incredible. Coming off an MVP, it should have been Jokic, but Embiid just at least would have been a finalist. He's obviously one of the league's best players. I like Tyrese Maxey a lot. Really good scoring point guard. Outside of that, there isn't a lot there to like. Tobias Harris is a solid piece, but he's not scaring me. You look at the other role players. Fucking Korkmaz, he's okay. I like Danny Melton on the bench. They have Pat Bev now, who's a good defender. Kelly Oubre is a good shooter on the bench. There isn't much there. They could be a little deeper. I like Nick Nurse. He's a good coach. I don't think a great coach, but he does have a championship ring with the Raptors. You can kind of thank Kawhi Leonard for that, but he does have one. Outside of Embiid, there's no one really scaring me. Because like when they had Harden, even if you double Embiid, Harden could still hurt you in a way, in some ways. Now without him, or even if he is there, he's not going to help you at all. It's all right, guys. Embiid's an amazing player. One of the 5 or 6 probably best players in basketball, at the very least, probably. Just focus all our assets on him. If Tyrese Maxey beats us, fine. If Tobias Harris goes off and has a crazy game, fine. But if you don't let Joel Embiid kill you, even if you keep Joel Embiid under 30, it's hard to see Philly winning that many basketball games. So I think they take a step back. I think they finish 6th in the conference. I would not be surprised if they lose in the first round of the playoffs this year. The play-in tournament, my first play-in team in the East, I have the Indiana Pacers. They had a really good offseason. They're a really good young team. I like them bringing Obi Toppin. I wish the Knicks didn't trade him. I kind of understand why they did it because they didn't want to pay him. You got a lot of young guys that you got to pay. So I think he's a very athletic, good defender. His 3-point shot is coming along. I like them bringing him. They give up nothing for him. So I like that move. Tyrese Halliburton is a really good young point guard. Buddy here, I know he's not happy there. I know he's on the trade block, but he's there for now. He's a really good shooter. They got a lot of good young players. Benedict Mulford. I like Miles Turner. T.J. McConnell's a good, he's a good defender on the bench. Good number 2 point guard. Got Aaron Neesmith, Nemhard. They got a lot of young players on that bench that I like. They're a very good young team. I think they take a step forward this year, and I think they're the first playing team. My second playing team this year, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Every year it's the same thing with them. Mid, but they'll do just enough to win 43 games. They'll make the play-ins, and maybe they squeeze out of the play-in, but no further. Trey's he's an incredible scorer. He's lethal, but he can't defend. DeAndre Murray is a great player. Really good shooter, can score. He's an underrated defender. But you got 2 bull-dominant guards in that backcourt. That does not work. That trade to get DeAndre Murray, they give up way too much. I know they got Bogdanovich. I think Bogdanovich might be out the first month of the year. Unless it's the other Bogdanovich. But, they also got, DeAndre Hunter, who I love a talent like kid. He can really shoot. We saw it at Virginia. Hasn't really shown up in the NBA. I like Capel a lot. Actually, no, it's the other Bogdanovich. That was my mistake. So he's a good shooter. But other than that, Patty Mills is a solid number 2 point guard, but he's older. Garrett Matthews isn't a bad shooter on the bench. They got some young guys that need to step up. Kobe Buffton they took in the first round. Sadiq Bey you bring in last year. You got, AJ Griffin, on Congo. So they need these young guys to step up. If these young guys step up, Atlanta could be a pretty good team. It might even be able to be a top 5 team in the East. But just something's wrong. They got a new coach now in Quinn Snyder, who's a solid coach, but I don't think a great coach. He's obviously still there, but I don't really expect much. That team is not well built. If I'm them, I'd blow the team up after the year. If they don't at least win a playoff series this year. Which I don't see a way that they do. Coming in 9th and being the 3rd playing team, I have the Orlando Magic. They didn't really go out and get, an impact fridge like I thought they might. If so, I may have had them, the 4 for 15 in this conference. They have a lot of good young talent that I really like. But still, they have so many good young players. I think they take a step forward. I like them taking Anthony Black. People kind of knock saying, he's not a good shooter. Gotta remember, he's a great defender. He's got incredible court vision. He's a big guard. So we can see over the top of the defense. He sees plays before they develop. He's really good. The Magic got a lot of they got a lot of good size, especially with their guards, and he fits them perfectly. Jalen Suggs, his talent at Gonzaga hasn't really carried over, but I like the talent on the kid. He's still really young. I love Franz Wagner. I love Paulo Banchero. I think he's a star in the making. I like Wendell Carter. Jet Howard is a good shooter. I would have taken Grady Dick over him because Grady Dick does some other things besides shoot the ball, but Jet Howard is still a really good shooter. Joe Ingles is a good vet to have on your bench. Maurice Wagner down low. He's very good at Michigan. He's turned into a solid bench guy. They got so much young talent. They extended Cole Anthony, who's hasn't really shown too much in the NBA level besides his funny interviews, but I like the talent on the kid a lot. Even Gary Harris and Markel Fultz have played a little better. Two more busts, especially Markel Fultz, but they both played a little better. I like Jamal Mosley, the young coach over there. So I go around and we'll take a step forward, and I think they'll be in the play-ins. I'm not sure how much further in the play-ins they go, but it's a step in the right direction that for an organization that ever since they were in the finals with Dwight Howard, 10 or 12 years ago, has done basically nothing. And my last playing team, I had the Toronto Raptors. Look, they lose Fred VanVleet in the offseason. I would have tried to get something for him at the trade deadline last year. They didn't. They could have broken that team up. They didn't. They made the coaching change. They bring in that assistant Darko Randovich, whatever his name is, from Memphis. Which lures Dennis Schroeder over there. I think Schroeder's a solid, like, number 2 point guard, but I don't really think he's a great starter. But they have some young guys I like a lot. I love Scotty Barnes. Bit of a step back last year to win Rookie of the Year before, but I love Scotty Barnes. That talent's through the roof. Pascal Siakam is very underrated. I've said it many times. If he was in like a bigger market like New York or LA, the media would be licking their chops over him. He is an amazing player. 7 foot, can shoot, great scorer, athletic, great defender, really good player. OG Anunoby's a great player. I love OG Anunoby. I've wanted him on the Knicks for 2 or 3 years now. I love Grady taking him in the first round. Phenomenal shooter, can defend a little bit. You got Gary Trent on the bench. Chris Boucher is a good, is a good stretch 4, stretch 5. Monstre Flynn's on the bed, young point guard. So I think the team overall is a little better, but they're just overmatched. I don't, they have a big hole at point guard. Their best point guard is Dennis Schroeder. I am interested to see, Marquise Noel. He was, the star of the NCAA tournament, undrafted free agent. He's so small. He's like 5'6", 5'7". This isn't, the 80s when, Muggsy Bogues took the world by storm. The league's so much bigger now. It's so much different than when Muggsy Bogues was in leagues. I'm not sure if he can succeed, but you can't teach the core vision that kid has. So I'm very interested to see what he does. But, I don't expect much from Toronto, but they'll be in the plans. What probably happens is they make the plans, losing the plans again, and then they probably break the team up. But they have some young guys that I like, so they could be an intriguing team. Teams that I missed in the plans. First, the Chicago Bulls. This team isn't good. Not having Lonzo Ball for the second year in a row, that's a big loss. He's a point guard who he hasn't obviously lived up to being the second overall pick. His dad definitely got in his head. LeVar Ball kind of ruined him. But, he was coming along as a shooter. Especially was really coming along as a defender. Has always had the handles. I love Alex Caruso. He's a phenomenal defender. Can shoot a little bit. But still, they don't have a lot of depth there. I love Zach LaVine. I love DeMar DeRozan. But DeRozan, he's a very good scorer, but he's a little older. Can't defend for his life. Zach LaVine's a great scorer, but I got a little overrated. He's a guy, if he goes to a team where he can be like a number 2 option, he'd be a phenomenal piece for that team. He's the kind of guy, if he's number 1, he'll put up nice numbers. He'll give you 26, 27 every game, but you're not going to win a lot of basketball games. When he's number 2, if he gets traded, he might only give you 19, 20, 21 a game, but your team's going to be winning 50-plus games. So, I love Nikola Vucevic, but he's getting a little bit older, and they're very thin. Their bench is not very good. I love Ayatosumnu. I think he has all-star potential. I loved him at Illinois. I thought he was slept on in a draft a couple of years ago. I like him a lot. Other than that, Kobe White's been a bit of a bust. I like Adamo Sanago. Took a flyer on him from UConn. Other than that, it's Torrey Craig, who's not a bad bench piece, got some championship experience, and Andre Drummond, who has basically nothing left. He might give you 8 rebounds off the bench, but that's about it. This team isn't that good. They're going to miss the play-in and then blow it up. It's time. I would have traded LaVine in the offseason. I'd look to shop DeRozan, and even guys like Nikola Vucevic and Alex Caruso, I think might be on the block. They tried. This rebuild has completely failed. Everybody should go. They should build that whole thing up. Their main players should go. I get rid of Billy Donovan. He's not a very good NBA head coach. A glorified college coach. Arturas Karnisovas, when they brought him in from Denver. Run their basketball operations. I was, it looked intriguing. They got, that awful Gar Foreman and John Paxson duo in the front office out of there. But he's not done a good job. They need to try this thing again, to be honest. After that, I have the Brooklyn Nets. So they are finally saved from the terror of that Harden, KD, Kyrie era, whatever the heck you want to call that. Problem is, they still have Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is awful. He's not good at basketball. He is not. He's a good defender, but he can't score. and apparently he's a guard. He's 6'10", should be a power forward, but he's a guard apparently. I love Mikal Bridges, and they got some young guns I like. I like Cameron Johnston. I like Nick Claxton down low. This team is not going to get up. This team is very good defensively. Along with Johnston and Brennan, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, you're gonna have a hard time shooting a three against them. They can't score. We're gonna see a lot of like 95 to 88 games that they lose this year, kind of like they did a couple times in the first round against Philly last year. They haven't won a playoff game in several years. Outside of Mikal Bridges, there's no one else that's really threatening me to score. Maybe Fento Dinwiddie. He's a solid player. He's a pretty good scoring guard, but other than that, no one really can score on this team. Cam Thomas a couple times a year might drop 40, but he also he's still young. He gets a little trigger happy. He still needs some development, some seasoning. So don't love their depth. Don't love Jacques Vaughn as a coach. He's put on a tough spot, so kudos to him for keeping them in the playoff mix, but I don't think they're going to do anything this year at all. Then I have the Detroit Pistons, who I like what they're building. A lot of young players, but they're still, I think, a year or two away at least. Ivy and Kate Cunningham, having Kate will help a lot. Two really good young guards. Alstar Thompson, obviously needs to work on his shot. I like what talent on the kid. I like Jalen Duren. To me, they need to move one or two of these bigs between Duren and Bagley, Stewart and Wiseman. Joe Harris doesn't really have much left anymore. This team is very, very young. They're in a rebuild. I do think they're finally building something. They bring in a very good coach, Monty Williams, now. I like that hire. I think they give him a lot of money for I think he's a little overrated. But he's still a good coach. But they're not there yet. Then I have the Washington Wizards. So obviously they bring in Jordan Poole. You send up Bradley Beal. You recoup a bunch of picks. They brought in the guy from the Clippers to run their basketball operations. And he said, enough is enough. Let's tear this thing down. And thank God he did, because this team needed to restart. Now they get Poole as a young player who we know can score, we know can shoot. I can see him being a 25-a-game scorer this year. Kyle Kuzma played really well last year. They got some young guys I like. Then you have Vijay, who just got an extension. Corey Kispert, I like the talent on him. Bilal Coulibaly, a first-round pick this year. He played with Wembanyama in France. I'm hoping Johnny Davis, once he gets over his injury, he's having in preseason, will play a little more this year. I like the talent on him. Coming out of Wisconsin last year, drafted him 10th overall last year. But I don't think we'll win a lot of games, but they'll be entertaining, and they have some young guys that I like. And the worst team in the NBA this year will be the Charlotte Hornets. What is going on in Charlotte? Your guys getting arrested left and right. What is going on? I love LaMelo Ball. If he's healthy, I love a talent on him. Really good young point guard. I like Brandon Miller. I would have taken Scoot. For me, not for one, and their team is awful. But I do like the talent on the kid a lot. I like Terry Rozier as a good scoring guard. I like Gordon Hayward. Problem is, he's only going to play 35 games. P.J. Washington's pretty good. Outside of that, there's really nothing there. They're very, very young. Miles Bridges, his basketball career is over. He's done, at least in Charlotte. He's done. I like Nick Smith coming out of Arkansas. Mark Williams was a lottery pick last year. The big guy, I think, out of Duke, or maybe it was Kentucky. But his team is awful. Steve Clifford's also not a good coach. Why is he back? Get rid of him. This team is terrible. They're awful. Right, on to the Western Conference. And first is the defending champion, the Denver Nuggets. They lose a couple of pieces. You lose Bruce Brown, was important in the playoffs. Nice 3-and-D guy. You lose Jeff Green's leadership. But they still got Nikola Jokic, the best player in basketball. One of the most talented bigs I've ever seen. So I got Jamal Murray, who's healthy. A lethal shooter. If Michael Porter Jr. is healthy, I think he'll be a little healthier this year. Not sure he'll be the player we thought he was going to be, but still a really good shooter who could score and defend. Really good player, Aaron Gordon's a great defender. He can shoot the ball a little bit. KCP's a good 3-and-D guy. I think this kid Christian Braun's going to step up. I never heard of him. I know he played at Kansas. He was on the national championship team 2 years ago. Then all of a sudden he comes to the game in the finals. He's getting over loose ball. He's hitting shots in guys' faces. I'm like, I don't know those white boys. But this kid ain't bad. I like him. They bring in Reggie Jackson. I think he's a good backup point guard. Justin Holiday's pretty good. I wish they were a little deeper, but their starting lineup is just so good. At some point, outside of Jokic and Murray, they really only need one or two guys to step up. Gordon will do his part defensively, and I think KCP and Christian Braun. I think KCP played very well last year, especially in the playoffs. He fits very well. Christian Braun, I think he's a guy who may have been slept on in the draft a couple of years ago. I think he could have a bigger role this year, and I'm very excited to see what he does. Because of how good Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are as a duo, and of course individually as well. If KCP gives them 15, 17 points, and Braun and KCP give them, let's say, 15 each, that might be all they need to go back to the finals. To me, there's no team in the West. I don't see a team in the West beating them. Someone's going to have to show me something, because the West, I think the East is more top-heavy. I think Boston Milwaukee are on the road true contenders, but still Cleveland's a very good team. Knicks are a very good team. Miami's a good team. If they get to the playoffs, they'll figure it out. If that's a bunch of teams, they're either on the decline, like Philly or Toronto, or a team that's young, they're on the upswing, but they're not there yet, like Indiana or Orlando. The West, outside of Denver, I think it drops off a bit, but they're very deep. There's probably 12 teams that hypothetically could make the playoffs. But Denver's really the only one I really see as a true championship contender. The second place team is Sacramento Kings. I have the Kings finishing in second. Of course, breakout year last year, finishing third in the West. I would say he brought in somebody major in the offseason that he really didn't, but so I love De'Aaron Fox, starting making, very underrated. Bones is a great player. They got, I think, two young stars making, Keegan Murray and Davion Mitchell. Got so many good role players with Harrison Barnes, who's solid. Kevin Huerter's a great shooter. They're bringing Chris Durante. Alex Len was a solid backup big man. Malik Monk's a good shooter. Mike Red's a great coach. Coming off a coach of the year. I really like this team, and I think they at least win a playoff series this year. In third, I have the Memphis Grizzlies, and they're hurting right now. You lose your big man, Steve Adams, for the year. I think it's a big loss. Brandon Clark, who I like on that bench, is coming off a torn Achilles, so he'll miss the start of the year. So then we got, and of course, Ja Morant, their star, is at the first 25 game with the suspension. Hopefully he gets his head screwed on straight. But until then, I think Marcus Smart will be able to hold down the fort. He's a great defender. Really good leader. A lot of playoff experience. Desmond Bane's a great shooter. You got Luke Kennard. Jaren Jackson is a great defender. His shot's kind of coming along. You got Xavier Tillman. I do like them bringing Derrick Rose. I don't think he'll play much. Doesn't have much left. His bounce pretty much gone. That's what made D Rose. But as a leader, Ja Morant has a chance to be what Derrick Rose could have been if he stays out of trouble. So I think he'll be a great mentor for Ja Morant. Love that move. And that's because I like Z.R.A. Williams, I think it's his name. I like Kenneth Lofton. He's got great size. Even Santi Aldama, I think's got some talent. John Conchar. So benches, I got some guys from that bench. And once Ja comes back, if he's Ja, at least if he stays in trouble off the court, which is a big if. I'm very worried about him, but if his head's on straight, Memphis should once again be a really good team. In fourth place, I have the Phoenix Suns. All right. On paper, if you look at the Suns, you'd be like, wow, this team is loaded. Kevin Durant, who's obviously a superstar, one of the league's greatest players ever. Devin Booker's a star. Bradley Beal's a phenomenal player. They got some other guys. This team should win it all. They have no depth. I like Jusuf Nurkic. Really good scoring big. But he can't stay healthy. Eric Gordon, he's still a solid role player, but much older. I know, like, in free agency, they brought in a bunch of guys on cheap deals, and in that 3-team trade with Dame, they picked up some depth, but who on that bench is doing anything? I like Yuta Watanabe. He's a great defender, but he's not scoring at all. Nazir Little, Keon Johnson, Saban Lee, Josh Okogie. Okogie's a good defender, but he can't score. Kid beats Diop. Drew Eubanks. I like Bobo if he's healthy. To score on the bench a little bit. Very athletic, obviously, but like KD's probably going to miss a good 40, 50 games. KD's going to miss probably at least 30 games. Bradley Beal might miss 30 games. Devin Booker might miss 10, 15 games. And they're going to have to rely on, Grayson Allen, Josh Okogie, and Nazir Little. Like, if they're without, KD, at least KD and Beal for 30 games at a time, they're going to be hurting. They don't really have the depth to me that other teams do. So I have them finishing fourth from the conference. Still might need to do in a playoff series, maybe. But this team needs to win a championship right now, and they're not going to do that. In fifth, I have the Lakers. Okay, look, the Lakers, they made some nice moves in the offseason, but my God, were they being overhyped. You guys know how I feel about LeBron. I won't lecture you about that. But he's still a great player. You got to remember, it's his 21st year in the league. He's 39 years old. Anthony Davis, great player. But they're both a little older, especially LeBron. Both aren't quite the same. LeBron's still a great player. Can still give you 27, 28 points a game, but not quite, I don't even think he's a top 10 player anymore. He's going to miss probably 15, 20 games with injuries. And he's a phenomenal when he's on. He'll give you 35, 10, and 4 blocks. But he's a little inconsistent, and he's always hurt. He's going to miss 40 games. I like D'Lo as a good scoring guard, but he can't defend. I like Reeves a lot. Christian Woe was a good. I think they got a steal. On the bench, I like Hachimura. He fits well. I like him bringing Gabe Vincent. Vanderbilt can defend, but other than that, Jackson Hayes isn't very good. Cam Reddish is not good. He's a bust to me. I know he had a chance to show his talent, but he's showing me nothing. He was in New York, didn't really show me much. Hutchafino I have. He's a young guy, but can then be, they're not going to the conference final. They had a cupcake run. They had the Memphis Grizzlies, who are really not that. They're not built to win the postseason. Well, his head was in La La Land. He was playing with broken hands. He missed a game or two. Very inexperienced. And then they played the Warriors, who probably should have lost in the first round. They just played a more inexperienced team in the first round. Lakers had too much size. When they ran into an actual good team in the Nuggets, they got crapped on. So, Lakers, to me, they're a first-round exit. Don't care at all. In sixth in the West, I have Los Angeles Clippers. What do you want me to say about this team? Well, what do you want me to say? But cool, they have Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's a great player. When he's healthy, I think he's one of the 10 best basketball players on the planet. He's going to miss 50 games this year. He doesn't care anymore. He never plays. Paul George is a great player. Phenomenal. Skill-wise, when it comes to his overall skills, he's one of the 5 most skilled players in the league. He's going to miss 30 or 40 games. I like Bones Highland. Covington's okay. Zubac is a solid big man. On their bench, I like Norman Powell. Russ, I think, with shooters around them, can still be a decent 6-man. But then Amir Kobe, Terrence Mann, they're just okay. No one besides KG and Paul George really scare me. And they're both probably gonna miss half the year, at least. So they might win enough games to just squeeze into the playoffs, but they'll be a first-round exit again. This team, it's the Clippers. It's the Clippers. They will be bad until the end of time. See, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and others, and they couldn't even get to the final. Could be able to get to the conference finals. No, they're losing the first round. As for the play-in tournament, my first playing team is the Golden State Warriors. I don't expect much from them. Steph is still a great player, one of the all-time greats. But the fact is, this team is old. Clay is still a good player. Can still shoot, 38, 39%, maybe 40. Give you 20 points a game, but not quite the same player. Chris Paul, I don't think has much left. He's there. He's really there for leadership. I don't see how it's gonna work. The players have said, even so themselves, it's weird. They always didn't like him, and now he's their teammate. Draymond, he's at the start of the year, should be back pretty shortly. Still a very good defender, but not quite the same defender. Can't score. Kevin Looney's a great rebounder. But, they need these young guys to step up. They need Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, those two former lottery picks, to step up. I like Andrew Wiggins on the bench. I'm glad that he overcame all of his personal stuff. He's a very good player, but other than that, there isn't a lot there. This team is old. I think it's their last hurrah. I think it ends. I think they come out of the play-ins, but they're going to lose in the first round. All right, in 8th, I have Oklahoma City Thunder. And they got so much young talent. Shai is an incredible player. I think he's already top 10 in the league. I love Josh Giddey. Chet Holmgren being healthy that's going to be a huge difference. They're still really young. You got Lou Dort, Casey Wallace, another young point guard from Kentucky. But, they're still really young. But they'll be a playing team. In 9th, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. That Gobert trade is historically bad. Him and Towns together don't work. Towns is a great scorer, great shooter, but can't defend. Gobert is an incredible rim protector, but can't score. And Mike Conley's pretty good. I love Anthony Edwards. Jim McDaniels just got a bag. He's a great defender, but not really going to score. No one on that bench really scares me. Kyle Anderson's okay. He looks like he's moving in slow motion when he runs. He got not really defined backup big man, but the contract he got was way too much. There's not a lot there. I like Jordan Hawkins. The Pelicans. Looking at my notes, but there's not a lot to like there. They'll lose in the plans probably again. Finishing up the plans, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, on paper, the Pelicans should probably be a top 4 team in the conference. Zion, when healthy, is a phenomenal player. Can give you 27 and 8. Brandon Ingram's a great player. McCollum's really good. Alvarado's a great defender. I like him taking Hawkins in the first round. Valanciunas is really underrated. Really good big man. Really athletic. Plays both ends. Herb Jones is good. They cannot stay healthy. Zion is going to miss at least 50 games. I hate to say it, but I just don't trust it. He might go down as one of the worst busts in history because he can't stay on the court. He's going to ease way out of the NBA. I don't mean to say it like that, but that's the truth. Brandon Ingram's probably going to miss about 25, 30 games. CJ McCollum probably going to miss about 20 games. This team is healthy. If I thought that they would stay healthy, I'd put them no lower than probably 4th in the conference. But they can't stay healthy. I feel really bad for Willie Green. I think he's a good coach, keeping the team even relevant, even in the play-in picture, despite all of his key players being hurt every year. But they'll probably come out hot and be really good, and then Zion will get hurt. Oh yeah, he'll be out a month, and then his recovery was taking slow, and there'll be more drama. And then Ingram will go down, and McCollum will go down, and before I know it, they'll be buried in the play-in picture. Right, teams I have looking at is Utah Jazz. I want to say I think the Jazz take a step forward, but the West is just so deep. There's too many teams. I like Colin Sexton a lot, but he can't stay healthy. I love Lauri Markkanen, but Taylor Hendricks is only a rookie. I like Walker Kessler a lot, but to me they got too many bigs. John Collins, I don't really think that makes sense. Good defender and he can score, but really isn't a great shooter. I like Agbaji, but still young. I don't think Tam Horton Tucker's very good. Josh Christopher is nothing special. To me, there's not a whole lot here, to be honest. They're still very, very young. I think they're not there yet. They have the Houston Rockets. Okay, the Rockets have a lot of young talent. I like the Fred VanVleet move. Good scorer, can shoot, good perimeter defender. You know, he'll be a good leader, for that team. You got Jalen Green, a lovely talent. They got a steal and Cam Whitmore. I think he's gonna be a great player. Jabari Smith, Alfred Sengun. They got so many young talent, but I think they're still a year or two away. And Tony Eason isn't even bad. They brought in a lot of guys this offseason. Obviously Van Vliet. You bring back Jeff Green for some leadership. You bring in Jock Landale for some deck. You draft Eamon Thompson. You bring in Reggie Bullock. They could be a sleeper. I could see them finishing the plans, but I just think they're so young. I think they're a year away from being a legit contender. Then I have the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are awful. They are not a good basketball team. Kyrie, great talent. He's gonna miss 40 games for injuries. He's gonna do something stupid, say something stupid, do something stupid. Luka's an incredible talent. One of the most gifted scorers you've ever seen, can shoot. One of the worst defenders I have ever seen at any level of basketball. He might give you 32, 33 a game on average, but he's also going to give up 50 on average. He plays too slow. It doesn't work. Hardaway Jr. is a good shooter. I like them bringing in Grant Williams. He's a solid 3-and-D guy. I like them drafting Derek Lively in the first round. On the bench, Seth Curry is a good shooter. Josh Green's nothing special. Jaden Hardy's still young. I think Maxi Kleber's okay. Dwight Powell's okay. I like Rashawn Holmes as a rim protector on the bench, but Kyrie and Luka is not going to work. They don't fit together. I don't think they'll make the plans again. I just don't see it. Then I have the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, all eyes will be on them with Victor Wembanyama. Hot take: I think Wembanyama might take a little bit longer to develop than expected. Just because I think we'll struggle a little bit defensively, but we all know he can score. He can shoot the ball. Obviously, is a great shot blocker. I think he might this year give you 22 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, and be in the rookie of the year conversation. But I just don't think he'll completely explode like people think he will. And I like Devin Vassell. He's very good. I like Kellen Johnson. He's solid. Like their starting point guard is probably either Devontae Graham or Trey Jones. But Graham's not a good number 2 point guard, not really a starter. I don't think Zach Collins, but I don't know why he's the center over Wembanyama. Wembanyama's 7'4", but Collins isn't that great. I like McDermott on the bench, but other than that, there isn't a lot to like. The Spurs are in a rebuild. They still got Coach Pop, but they're still not there yet. And last, unless I have the Blazers. Look, overall, I think they got an okay haul for Dame. The original haul wasn't great. The follow-up move made a little better. They got some draft picks back. I thought it could have been better. I love Anthony Simons. I think Scoot's an incredible talent. I like Jeremy Grant a lot. Brogdon. They're very guard heavy. They need a wing as bad as I've ever seen a team need a wing ever. I like Rob Williams. He's a really good rim protector, really good defender, but not a great scorer, and he's always hurt. I don't think Ayton's very good, to be honest. Not a great scorer, really isn't a good defender. Outside of low rim protection, he isn't that good. Chris Murray's still young. T. Stable's a great defender, but he can't score. This team is terrible. They might have a top 3 pick in this year's draft. All right, for my awards picks for MVP, I think it's pretty wide open this year for MVP. I'm actually going to say Giannis. I just think with Milwaukee, you either got to clog the paint with Giannis, which is very hard to do because Giannis is a freak, and then either Giannis will overpower you or kick it out to a wild with Damian Lillard, or you can guard the perimeter and Giannis will just force his way into the paint. It's going to be, he'll just be unstoppable. So I think Giannis wins his 3rd career MVP. As for Coach of the Year, that one's definitely tough. I'm gonna say, that's a tough one. I'll say Mark Danielle in Oklahoma City. Actually, I'll be a little bold. I mean, okay, he got a lot of young talent. I think they might surprise some people. I'll go with him for defensive player of the year. I'm gonna say Evan Mobley. Actually, he is such a great defender, and he's still so young. Still what, 21 years old. Also him for defensive player of the year. So that's my pick for that. For most improved player, I'm actually gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say Quentin Grimes. I think he breaks out this year for the Knicks. I hope he does for my sake, but I'll say he breaks out. I'll say he wins most improved player. As for who wins the finals, I got the Denver Nuggets and Milwaukee Bucks in the finals. I have the Milwaukee Bucks coming out on top. And a lot of times those those victories don't work, but just you got Dame's a lights out shooter. You know, Giannis obviously is a freak. Middleton's a great shooter. You know, they got some guys on the bench that can hurt you. If they're healthy, I don't think anybody beats them. I think it'll be a little easier to stay healthy with Dame there now. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.